All right, we are up and running. I'm going to make sure that it is happening on YouTube right now. Okay, it is. Gonna share on Twitter. While I'm doing it anyway. So just bear with me and we'll get started in just a second. All these things that you gotta do. Good Lord. Okay, boom, boom, boom. There we go. Done and done. Okay, and we're up, and of course, nobody's here because everybody hates me. Just kidding. All right, so welcome everybody that watches this later and catches up in just a few minutes to Working Out Reviews. This is Rob here. How's everybody doing tonight? We are on our third entry into the films that came out the year I was born in 1975. And today, we're talking about a movie that I really didn't think we were going to talk about. We're talking about the Apple Dumpling Gang. Came out July 1st, 1975. 25 days before I was born. So, yeah, the reason that we're talking about the Apple Dumpling Gang, though, is when you try to find all these movies on streaming and you want to share them with your friends and watch them as a watch party, you're kind of stuck with whatever you could find. So thankfully, the movies we've been watching have been on either HBO Max or Amazon Prime, and now this one was on Disney Plus. A lot of the movies that are on this list for 1975 aren't even on streaming, so you have to rent them. And since I want to involve other people and I don't want them to have to pay, this is why we're talking about the Apple Dumpling Gang. I'm going to try to find one that isn't like this. So, the Apple Dumpling Gang. Now, the history with me in this movie is it was always around when I was a kid. My grandfather, who passed in 99, he always used to talk about this movie. And back in the day, I always remember it being on because he was a big Westerns fan. And it just didn't hold my attention. I was into the cartoons, or if it, like Old Yeller, I liked Old Yeller. I liked animal movies. But the thing about like this was it was like it's a shenanigans type of Western. And it doesn't really have a lot to grab you because the kids in this movie aren't real interesting to watch and to follow as characters. Another thing that I never realized is that they sell this movie to be Tim Conway and Don Knotts. Like, I always thought that this movie was mostly about them. And that and the shenanigans that they get up to with the orphans in this movie. But really it's not about them. They're just kind of peripheral to the movie, as it was brought up in the chat while we were watching it. They're more like the Wet Bandits, or like the Old West Wet Bandits, except the damage that they do to themselves. Nobody really does anything to them. They're just stupid. And to be honest with you, Don Knotts and Tim Conway were way funnier than what they get in this movie. There's a few moments in this movie where you can see their talents used properly. Um, but they really, they just, most of the stuff that they do in this movie just does not land for me. Maybe it's just a time thing. Maybe this really is kind of a movie that you just had to be there to enjoy more. Because really, at the heart of this movie, this is Bill Bixby's movie. And I didn't know Bill Bixby was in this movie. And I was really, it was one of the things that got me actually happy to watch this. Kind of like when I realized that Christopher Plummer was in Return of the Pink Panther. I was like, oh, cool. All right. Give me a really good, solid actor. And so the plot of this movie, and believe me, there's a lot going on in this movie. Too much is going on in this movie. So the plot of this movie is Bill Bixby's a guy who's a bachelor, kind of a maverick. He reminds me like they're going for like a maverick type of role here, where he's just trying to, he's like a small time like poker player trying to get his way down to New Orleans so he can open up his own like poker casino establishment, and how he ends up caught in this town because he takes $5 from a guy to wait for some valuables that are showing up, and if he could just hold on to them until he gets back. And he agrees to it, not knowing that the valuables are 3 orphans, and he immediately regrets his decision. And when he tries to back out of it, the entire town is calling him like, I don't know if there's any like real legal ramifications if he wanted to back out of this, but the town really lays into him about leaving. And apparently guilt is powerful enough to keep a man from leaving town. So that was the first thing. I mean, I know this is a Disney movie, so you just kind of have to, you're either in for a penny, in for a pound in this kind of movie. You either accept it or you don't. And so Bill Bixby begrudgingly takes these 3 kids in until he can try to find someone to dump them on. And I gotta say, Bill Bixby was a really good actor. And, I know him mostly from The Incredible Hulk or The Courtship of Eddie's Father, all these things from way back when I shouldn't even remember this stuff. I was so little. And he died in 1993. He was only 50-something years old and died of prostate cancer. Just too young, way too young for that guy to go out. And honestly, he's pretty good in this. And this is not a great film. But he's pretty good as the guy that you can tell is going to, he's starting off one way and then slowly being, the kids are winning him over, especially the little girl Celia, who I think has a urinary tract infection because the chick just goes nonstop. Which was just a running gag throughout the entire movie. And then there's the obvious love interest in town played by Susan Clark, who I also did not know was in this movie. And if you're going, who the hell is Susan Clark? Well, Susan Clark, you might remember from a little show called Webster, where she played Mrs. Papadopoulos, the adopted mother to Emmanuel Lewis's character, who she was really married to Alex Karras, the ex-football player in that movie. She was married to him, I think, up until he died. And so it took me a minute. I knew I recognized her from somewhere, but she plays a character named Dusty, who is clearly the love interest for this movie. And she doesn't do a bad job either. I mean, both her and Bill Bixby are better actors than this movie. But another good thing about this movie is the side characters. There are a plethora of old-time Western film actors in this movie, that ranging from Slim Pickens to Jack Elam. There's a whole lot of guys in this that you like. And Harry Morgan, he stands out. The guy who was from MASH and Dragnet. He's actually probably the best character in this movie. He does the best I think he gets the most good screen time in this movie, as far as someone who's given a lot of good lines, given a lot of good scenes. I think Harry Morgan is actually really, really good in this. Um, Again, everybody's way when the people that are good in this are way better than the source material that we're talking about here, because it's real cheesy. It feels like, as I believe Bill had put it, in one of my commenters here in the chat, that it's like a TV episode that just went on way too long, and it does. It feels like a '70s TV show western that just got made into a couple, like could have been like a 3 episode arc on a TV show. I don't even know if they did arcs in westerns back in those days, but it felt like something that should have been broken up because it was really, really long, really, really long. It was only an hour and 40 minutes, but back then credits weren't very long. And so we're talking almost a full 100 minutes of this plot that just won't stop. It's like the Return of the King, man. Like there's so many points in this movie where it could have ended and it just keeps going. Almost like they didn't know like when to stop it. Like they just kept adding stuff to the movie. And I don't know if that's to fit in more screen time for Don Knotts and Tim Conway, because the actual plot of the orphans that are being taken care of, who end up stumbling into a mine that they have, that their mine, and I got like some kind of, I think it was like something that bit me on my neck. Weird. So anyway, they end up finding they literally accidentally find this huge gold nugget, and Bill Bixby as a character, you'd think, okay, this is where he decides that he's gonna freaking steal the kids' money. But no, he's a good guy, and he's actually just trying to watch over the kids' money and their well-being. At this point, he likes the kids, but he's still trying to get out of Dodge. Enter Amos and Theodore, Tim Conway and Don Knotts' characters, who are trying to steal the nugget, but they're really, really incompetent, and they do just really bad things to themselves. Nobody takes them seriously. Everybody basically just thinks don't even bother with them. They fuck things up on their own, and they do. And there's some funny bits here, but nothing that's like really, really stands out. It's more like, wow, it just doesn't age that well. And that's not to knock these guys, because when these guys are on fire and stuff, they can be really, really funny. I just don't find them very funny here. And I almost want to like cover my neck up. Can't stop staring at that. Then you also add another gang shows up late in the movie after the uncle who left them there to be found by Bill Bixby shows up late in the game after the nugget shows up. Then he just disappears again. But there's also this gang that Theodore and Amos, I think, used to be a part of. They show up to steal the nugget, and it's all these things happening that that need to be here. And it's like, I don't know, like if they were just trying to pad the movie out to have a better theatrical release again, or what. I really would like to, this is one of those movies that I wish I would have done a little bit more research on before making a review, because I'd really love to know the like more ins and outs of the making of this movie, because it just feels kind of like a mess, but also doesn't feel like anybody's having a really bad time making it or anything. It's an old-timey Western goof around movie. It just doesn't land in most ways that you want it to land. One character actor in particular that's in this movie I actually really like is John McGiver. He plays Leonard Sharp, the guy who runs the bank. And if you know this character actor, he's got a very distinct style, a very distinct look to him. He did like 111 movies in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And okay, apparently this is based on a novel. Woof. Like a dime store novel, maybe. I don't know. The Apple Dumpling Gang, yeah. John McGiver, he died only just over 2 months after this film's release, after releasing of like over 111 movies. And he's been in everything from Breakfast at Tiffany's to like all the different TV shows that were out back then. And he was a really great character actor. He was also in this. Brad Savage, or no, I think it's Clay O'Brien. I'm trying to remember which one. But one of the kids was in Red Dawn. Yeah, Brad Savage. He was actually in the original Red Dawn movie with Patrick Swayze. And I think that, speaking of the kids in this movie, they're one of the real reasons why this movie doesn't really work for me, and why I don't see it would work as a kids movie now, and why I don't think a lot of kids from today would really like this, because the kids just have no personality. The little girl is cute. Yes, she's very, very cute. But that's it. The two boys have like nothing going on. They tried to establish that the one kid doesn't like to be touched and he kicks, but that goes away pretty quickly. And the oldest one, he is like a lump of clay. And look, this isn't the kid's fault, right? I don't want to blame the kid actors in this, because honestly, their acting wasn't bad. They just gave them nothing to work with. They were just literally there to be like almost a plot point. So I don't know. I was trying to like think of things to talk about. I mean, there's some funny lines, like the way that back even in 1975, how they tried to word things, because it's definitely a more modern Disney movie and they could say certain things a little differently and do things a little differently. And there was, it could be a little more violent than the way that they used to be. I thought the term of Bill Bixby saying that when they're talking about sex and they use the term husbandly prerogatives, that really made me laugh. There is some decent like stunt work, but like it's like movie stunt work, where they, there's a scene where a carriage is on fire and a fire truck's chasing after it, and it's all pretty decently done. And when they're actually showing people on horses, when they're actually showing some of the stunt work, and they're not using, the fake backgrounds that's just, the stuff going by behind them, like the Flintstones, where it's just clearly them in a soundstage. When they're actually showing stunts, they're actually not bad. They're not terrible. There's a few moments in here that are pretty funny. And there's even like a weird little like mine car chase like going down a mountain that was kind of interestingly shot. But the rest of it's just not very interesting. And I'm glad to feel like it's one of those movies where I had hoped that my opinion on it, like my pre-opinion on it, was wrong, but I'm really not wrong. But I am pleasantly surprised that Bill Bixby was in this, and Susan Clark was in this, and Harry Morgan was in this, and they all did what I expected them to do, which was be pretty decent in it. I can't say much for Tim Conway and Don Knotts, who I feel like I should be talking about more, but they show up at the very beginning. Then you don't see them again for like over almost half, like a third of the movie before you see them again. And then they just kind of do odd little things here and there, and they kind of get in the way of the characters doing other things, and that's it. And everybody just, goes off and rides off into the sunset, and Bill Bixby marries Dusty, and they take the kids, and the two ex-criminals now join their family, even though if you look at the next movie, the Apple Dumpling gang rides again, you can see that, they got into some trouble. But yeah, there really isn't that much to say, and I wish that there really was more going on. Whenever some violence would break out, or the threat of violence would break out, I would imagine a much more violent end to everything. I was almost hoping for a bloody shootout by the end of this movie. And we did get a shootout, but it was like they shot a bunch of glass. A bunch of glass got destroyed, and nobody could hit the broadside of a barn, even though there were like 30 people shooting guns all at the same time. And it just, I mean, we had a lot of fun watching it, but it's not one of those movies that I can really recommend. unless you really like Bill Bixby. I think again he did a really pretty decent job for what he was given here. And I've seen Tim Conway and Don Knotts be much funnier in other things. I mean, a skit, just about any skit on the Carol Burnett show with Tim Conway is better than this. Dorf, that whole thing with the little guy on the golf course, that he plays, that's funnier than most of the stuff in this movie, and that stuff gets old quick too. So, yeah, if it suddenly turned into a Tarantino film at the end, I don't know. Maybe I'm just jaded. Maybe I'm just jaded and I haven't seen enough just kind of G-rated type things, but it was harmless fun, and I'm glad that I finally seen the whole thing and not just ignored it. I think if you're from that time, if you grew up in like the 50s, this is this is like kind of a throwback. Because if you watched a lot of Westerns and stuff like in the 50s, 40s and stuff, and you grew up in this 1970s, this is kind of a throwback to those kind of like movies a little bit, and it has that feel, but just with more shenanigans, and it just where everything just works out. And so, I don't know. I have nothing else to say about this movie. I'm not sure what our next installment's going to be. I've got a lot going on in the next few weeks. And my birthday is next Monday. And so I should just tell you, make sure you guys look out for that Monday video on July 26th, my actual birthday at like 7 o'clock. We'll be doing the big talking about the cult that I was in, talking about my life as a Jehovah's Witness. That video is coming up next week. And that's going to be fun. And we're going to talk about a lot of different stuff that day. I'm trying to decide between One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Jaws for the last movie of the series. We're going to continue doing them probably next year. I don't want to do both One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Jaws in one year, but we'll see how it goes. Other than that, thanks for watching this movie review with me, this live review. I think they're fun to do live, just because it's fresh in my mind. And I can do it without having to worry about editing and adding anything to it, especially when you don't like it that much like this movie. So I want to thank everybody that showed up at the Discord, my usual gang of watch party friends, Bill, Deborah, Rena, Sarah, all of you guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here in the chat. And if you like this video, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell for all notifications. I have a feeling no one's going to watch this review, but that's what you get when you watch a Disney movie that almost nobody remembers anymore. So have a great night, everybody, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.